Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're catching this, of course. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Antwane Willis. This is my co-host, Garrett Brown.
Yo, yo.
We are the uncommon commentators. We're going to break down some basketball for y'all this evening and some of the topics really going around the league that we think would be fun to talk about. But how you been doing, Garrett? You good, brother?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. Glad to be here with you, brother. And another journey, another chapter. So ready to jump into it, brother. Let's get it.
Of course, absolutely. And just to let you guys know, so for this evening's show, today we were going to talk about the best teams in the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and then at the end of the show, we were going to talk about some of the award races that are going around. Of course, it's pretty early in the season. It's only December 5th as we record this. Season is kicked off in October, but we still think there's been some pretty good performances thus far throughout the season, and I feel like some people have definitely separated themselves thus far, given the opportunities they've had with the upsets and like the major performances they've had. And some of the rookies we're going to talk about too. But yeah, man, we could go ahead and get to it. Want to give a shout out to my man Jay Holloway on the ones and twos. Great guy. You guys should definitely go follow him on social media as well. You guys can see my right there at Antwane Willis Jr. And that's my man Garrett at I am at GB_. So want to thank y'all again for joining us. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us right now. So yeah, we can go ahead and get to it. But yeah, Garrett, starting off with the Eastern Conference, because me and you both live on the East Coast. You can really start wherever you want, honestly. I was going to ask, who do you think has looked the best thus far throughout the year?
Man, it's kind of wide open, really, because when you look at Eastern Conference, I mean, it's really the Cleveland Cavaliers because of the fact that they have the best record and they've looked to be the best team in the East. Now, of course, Boston is the team to beat because they are the reigning champions, and so they're the team to beat. But and honestly, they're just as good as Cleveland, and they're right there, honestly, to take first place of the Eastern Conference. But so far, Cleveland has been the best team and really been the biggest surprise. They were a top 4, top 5 seed last year. They just hired Kenny Atkinson as their new head coach, and
Mhm.
they really didn't make any roster changes. So really, I think the coaching staff and really just bringing a new culture and Kenny Atkinson, and Atkinson is one of the coaches in the league that I truly respect. He was one of the assistant coaches for the Hawks past decade when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and won 60 games. So he comes from the Coach Bud tree. But yeah, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are the best team in the East. And I think that is going to be really a tight race between Cleveland and Boston. At first, I did say that I think it was going to be between Boston and the Knicks to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. But looking at how everything is right now, we're a little over 20 games now into the season. So we're about a quarter in. And like I said, Cleveland has been on a roll. So honestly, I think it could be Cleveland and Boston we could see in the Eastern Conference Finals this year.
Cleveland and Boston, you said, wow, really in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy for Boston. Not Boston, Cleveland. Of course, Boston, like, I'm happy for them. They won a championship last year.
For
But for
sure.
Cleveland right now, it's really more so like they were on the verge of a historic start to their season when they lost their win streak to the Atlanta Hawks the way that they did. Of course, that
Yeah.
was an upset when it happened. You could definitely kind of say it was an upset for sure. Seeing how Cleveland is just was a massive buzzsaw. They still are even at this point in time. But for me, I really just want to like really give the flowers to Donovan Mitchell. Like he's just played amazing this season. Really played terrific. He's been a superstar since his days in Utah, but I really feel like he's really just taken the next step just with his performances. He's been super dynamic this year, averaging 24 points a game, with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. He's looked really good, even like with his shooting percentage. He's shooting 45% from the field and 40% from three. It's really cool to see Donovan Mitchell. Like, he's still young right now. And some people thought he was going to leave Cleveland. He ended up staying for the long haul. Pretty sure he signed an extension with the Cavaliers. So it is cool to really see him like really get that torch past him in terms of all the historic Cavs we've seen, like Kyrie, Irving, LeBron James, of course. And yeah, they played great. They really found their identity with their defense. Evan Mobley's been fantastic down in the painted area. Just with like his defensive instincts, like he's really remarkable. He's only averaging 1.6 blocks per game, but if you're really watching him, it's real. I feel like that's more so because he'll go for efficiency over going for like blocks and stuff like that. The way he'll put his hands up with good defensive techniques, and he's also really good with his versatility. He's starting to spread the floor more. He's averaging 17 points and 9 rebounds a game. The former 4th overall pick out of USC, and he's still only 23 years old. So obviously there will be a point in time when he does get that max, because he is definitely gonna get a max for sure. They're gonna like really go all in on Evan Mobley, and that's what I'm really excited to see too. But I think everybody knows like one of the biggest reasons why they're playing so good this year, outside of Kenny Atkinson, like you said, Darius Garland has been a monster this year. He's really taken that next step. You can tell like his confidence has stepped up leaps and bounds, averaging 20 points and 6.7 assists per game. He's shooting like 45% from beyond the arc. So he's shooting absolutely out of his mind right now. I always thought he had the potential, again, like he's been with Cleveland his entire career. And I feel like, the fact that he never left or they never like decided to trade him or anything of that nature really shows that they always saw the potential in him. And I think it's finally starting to come to the forefront. Of course, that's Cleveland. Of course, Boston, like I said, they're the defending champions. I want to give some love to the Orlando Magic as well. I think Orlando has played great.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Magic and how they played so far with Franz Wagner and Paulo?
I really didn't expect Orlando to be this good in terms of being without Paulo, because they were a top 5 seed team last year when they were fully healthy, but I didn't expect them to be still, sustainable without Paulo. I thought they would have gone through a lot of struggle, but to your point, Franz Wagner, he's been carrying the team thus far ever since Paulo's been down with the injury, and they're still one of the top teams in the East. And I think that they could still make noise. I think the acquisition of KCP last summer did help them. But for me, I don't. And a lot of people believe that the Magic, they're not far from a true contender, which I do agree. But until they get another piece, I would recommend of them getting a all-star caliber point guard, because I think that's the biggest piece that they're missing. I think that they have a lot of great, wing players with Jalen Suggs, of course, Paulo, and then you have Franz Wagner. So I think if they are able to get a true all-star caliber point guard, then I think that they can be a true championship contending team. But Orlando, they're one of the top, defensive teams in the league. So as long as that is their blueprint, then they can still go places. So I definitely wouldn't take them for granted at all.
And we really saw the beginning of this evolution of Franz Wagner in the Olympics this past July when he was representing his home country. And like he played great. Like he really did play phenomenal next to Dennis Schroeder and all those boys. He looked good. I thought he honestly had like one of his better performances, like even outside of the NBA, like, obviously because he's an NBA player, but I feel like he played even better in the Olympics than he has in the league itself. And now he's just really taken that next step after all the experience that he's gained thus far. One of my favorite things that I really like enjoy about this Orlando Magic team is that Franz Wagner is showing that like, he's really that level as well. Like he can have Paulo, because Paulo went down. He went on to average 24 points per game like any other NBA superstar. Of course, Paulo, he only got to play 5 games before his injury happened, but as of right now, he still is averaging 29 a game in that small sample size that he does have. So when they come back together, their forward tandem is going to be absolutely crazy with the way Wagner's been performing with his momentum. He's really just taking that next step in terms of all of his performances. Like, even because, he averaged 19 points per game last year. That's a 5-point jump. Even before that season, he was averaging 18 points, 18.6. So with more usage, with more opportunity, he showed that it was going to pay off for him. And for him to come out here and almost average 25 a game, he's in the most improved player race for a lot of people. I saw a lot of authors on The Athletic putting him as their candidate for most improved player. He could make the all-star team this year. That's very much a possibility. Seeing how right now, as we record this in December, the Magic are the 3rd seed in the East. But I did want to also give some love to some of the improving teams that we've seen in the league. The Milwaukee Bucks, they started out like 2-8 down in Milwaukee, and they've turned the record around to 11-10. How do you feel about Giannis so far and how he's performed throughout the season?
Yeah, Giannis is Giannis. He does what he does. He gets a lot of his points in the paint, scoring transition, and he's an athletic, freakish athlete, and we've all known that for Giannis for sure. For me, it's just Giannis is not the problem. It's clearly the coaching, and I could say the players a little bit, because we take back last season when they hired Adrian Griffin as their head coach, and to my understanding, they were 35-13. Before that they let him go. And I really didn't understand the logic behind that, that decision. And they hired Doc Rivers. And no disrespect to Doc Rivers, I think that he is still a good coach. Obviously, we know he's won a championship with Boston, but when you look at his past history with other teams, he just hasn't really been successful. And to many Hawks fans, we know this very well. A few years back when we played against Philly, it took to 7 games and we won that series. So big shout out to the ATL, but yeah, I think for the Bucks, it's just not looking good. And like I said, I mean, why fix it if it's not broken? I think the Bucks should have been, just stay where they were with Adrian Griffin and just continue to build out the roster. I think that with the loss of Drew Holiday, that definitely hurt them, and other guys like Wesley Matthews, other wing defenders. So I think that, and they kind of credit that they went out and got DeLon Wright and Torian Prince and other guys, but still they just have not been able to find an identity for this team. And so they could, best case scenario, they could still be a top 5 seed team if they're able to put a solid winning streak together. But right now, it just shows where they just not at a place where they could start winning games. And they just lost to Atlanta at home last night, and so they just have not been able to create an identity for themselves. So as of right now, it's just been a struggle, and I don't know if Doc Rivers is the right head coach for this team.
Yeah, man, and I honestly agree. Giannis is always going to be honest. He's averaging like 33 points a game right now with 11 rebounds and like 6 assists, and he's playing great on defense. He's 31 years old, so he's not going to fall off anytime soon. He's still playing great. Damian's playing good as well right now, even at this later age at 34 years old. I think Damian might be 35 now, actually. That's one thing I am waiting for him to start averaging like 18 points per game, like 19 points per game. Like, I still have good technique, but get older nonetheless. To end on Milwaukee, they're looking better. They're looking better, regardless of whatever. Yeah. They're looking better, like they climbed up to the middle.
One thing I do want to mention is that that's kind of the downfall for the Bucks, because as you mentioned, with Dame's age and Giannis, he's getting up there. He's in his late 20s. It's just where when you look at how this team is performing, you're kind of wasting your best players years. One would think that the Bucks, they would be a top 4, top 3 seed team, looking like a true championship contending team, but now you're in the process of trying to find an identity and trying to find out what works. So, and what would think that when they acquired Damian Lillard, then you would think that they would be right back in it as true, contention. But we see them now, it's just like they may not ever make it, win another championship. And of course,
Mhm.
you've heard it, Antoine, with the rumors about Giannis, potentially asking out. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but obviously we wouldn't necessarily see a trade happen, around the trade deadline at all, because it would make more sense to make a trade if that comes into fruition in the off season, because teams will have a better understanding of where they stand with their draft picks, because that's something that's going to be play a big part into a any Giannis trade. But I'm just saying that with these
Mhm.
struggles that they're going through, it is hurting, their team, and it's closing in their championship window.
Yeah, man, and I agree. And they gotta look forward to the future. Like Giannis is super expensive. He's clocking in like over like 50 million a year the next 3 years. So like they
Yeah,
just gotta see what like direction they're gonna move in. Like obviously like there's gonna be a Milwaukee Bucks with a 2035 roster. So they gotta
yeah,
start getting the picks ready. That's what happens when you win a championship. You get up so high, and like they were a contender for years before that. But
hmm,
they finally cracked it. They finally, passed the threshold back in 2021. And that's what happens. Like to compensate from that, there starts to be a downslide on your team. We saw with the Denver Nuggets, they couldn't
yeah.
repeat. They didn't make it out the second round last year. They ran into Minnesota. So that just really shows you, like, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, obviously consistency is key, but I feel like they're finally starting to get to a point where they know what kind of team they are. And they, of course, they're still missing Chris Middleton. He's a massive part of their core in like from the championship run. So we'll see how they do when he gets back. The Atlanta Hawks. Speaking of the Atlanta Hawks, obviously they've been looking pretty good. The Milwaukee Bucks were on a 7-game winning streak. The
Hmm.
Atlanta Hawks ended that in their previous game. They've looked really really good the last 5 games. I
Yeah.
don't say I don't say that as a person from Georgia to be biased or nothing like that, but they've undoubtedly the execution, the effort on the defensive end, everything has just been so much better in my opinion. So, how have you thought about the Atlanta Hawks thus far in December?
Well, obviously, you guys see I'm repping the Hawks, with this cap. So, y'all know who I repping for. But yeah, the Hawks, they've been playing very, very well over the last, 5 games. And, they have a 105 defensive rating over these last 5 games, which is the second best in the league right now. And I think that they've been able to find an identity, obviously, with the additions of Zachary Ricochet, that they drafted first overall pick this past draft. They were able to get Dyson Daniels from the DeJounte Murray trade, and you see the growth with Jalen Johnson, and arguably, no doubt, they're our second best player, and you could make a place, make a case that he could be, the best player, not just by the numbers, but in terms of how his performance is. I mean, he's averaging 20 points and 9 rebounds and 5 assists. I mean, that's very very good numbers for a kid at his age at 22. And so I think that the Hawks, they're starting to find themselves, and I believe that as they continue to face these bigger teams, obviously you've seen them beat Boston in an NBA Cup game on the road.
Um,
You see them
no
beat
Trey.
Cleveland. Yeah, man, without Trey, exactly. So which is more impressive. And you saw that they beat Cleveland twice. I mean, Cleveland was undefeated, and they beat Cleveland back to back. And then you see that they just beat the Milwaukee Bucks last night, and of course they have the Lakers tomorrow night. But even though the Lakers, they haven't been playing well, but we get into the Western Conference soon. But I'm just saying that overall, the Hawks, they've been on a roll. Everybody is sharing the ball. They're getting out and run, playing at a fast pace. So they're starting to figure things out. And right now they're in the top 6 seed. And for me, that's the expectation that I wanted for this team, is to make the playoffs as a top 6 seed and avoid the play in, because they've been in the play in for the past few years, and it's just time for them to find something that will make everybody better. And like I said, you as a team, you want to grow each and every year instead of going reverse and going downward. So I think that they're on the right track. So they just have to continue to just grow as a team, and they'll get better. So hopefully they'll go for 6 straight tomorrow against the Lakers at home.
And like that's the thing. It's like how you mentioned with the wins over the Cavs and the Celtics. Like it's their confidence. Like it's giving them so much confidence. Like you saw how the bench was when they were dapping each other up. Like and, after beating
Hmm.
Boston like that, and like it was just really cool to see them because they knew like the moment they got that notification Trey was out, they knew the game would be a little bit harder for sure. And
Yeah.
they came out from the opening bell. A lot of physicality, just all over the Celtics, not giving them any breathing room, really maximizing the capabilities of our roster. And then they've honestly just really got a lot of momentum right now. They really found their identity with Dyson. Bogey after their last win, he gave a lot of credit to Dyson Daniels and said like he's given the whole locker room a lot of inspiration on to play better on defense. Seeing a 21-year-old like play defense over there like that, I'm pretty sure that can only inspire you. And because I kept wondering, I'm watching the games, I'm like, what was it like what was it? I'm not even joking. Like I'm really wondering what was it? Like who said what and really made them flip a switch like that on defense because it's setting up their fast breaks and their offense so good. And
Hmm.
I think it was Dyson. Dyson maybe had Freddie call some stuff out. They know how good of a defender he is, so he's really credible. And their teammates, they all want to win at the end of the day. And they know like that was their main issue was their defense. They've always been great at offense, so much to the point where their defense would hold back their offense. And now
Yeah.
it's getting to a point where that's not the case anymore. That we've all seen like they're getting out on the fast break way more. They had like 20 points off the fast break at one point last night versus the Bucks. And they're just looking really, really good. Like Trey's leading the league in assists right now. You can tell from how he's playing on the court, how he's just setting them up in the paint way more. He's making a conscious decision to try and win that assist leader this year. He really, really wants it. It would just be really cool to see him get it. Like it would mean like the Hawks really have like some world class players now, like with Trey leading the league in assists, like Dyson leading the league in steals, like
Hmm.
Jalen almost getting like he might get most improved player, and we saw that a lot of publications that came out and said that Jalen was the only player averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and a block. So it's just really cool to see. All these young players finally start to find their potential. I mean, DeAndre Hunter is shooting like 43% from the three right now. When he's healthy, he's like, they're so good. I think they're undefeated with him in the lineup, actually.
Hmm.
So he's really
Yeah.
been the catalyst, like having two great defenders like that. In his 3-point shot, they just look really good. But yeah, of course, just to end on the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat, they're getting better. They're 10-10. They lost the
Not
game.
to mention, not to mention that they blew out the Lakers by 41 at home.
Yes, they did.
Crazy.
Yes, they
Crazy.
did. Absolutely. I
Crazy.
feel I felt bad for JJ Redick on that one. He felt really embarrassed in the post game press conference. He just knows like no matter the circumstance, you never want to lose by even like 30 plus like that. And
Yeah.
the Bulls are 9-13. The Pacers are 9-14. Tyrese Halliburton was in a post game scrum about a night ago. And he's really disappointed with the way his team's performing right now. He's just saying there's no positive vibes, there's no positive takeaways. There's really nothing they can really talk about to really try to really get some momentum going. They can just really go out there and just hope to perform better. Of
Hmm.
course, we saw them knocking on the door of the NBA Finals last year. So
Exactly.
we'll see if they can get it together. The Detroit Pistons, I actually think they're getting better. I do believe that they're 9-15 last year, and and not this year. I was going to say last year. At one point, they were like 3-35, something like that. So they're looking way better this year. I'm
Hmm.
really happy for them to show the progress. Of course, they're in that Cooper Flag sweepstakes. The Toronto Raptors are 7-15. Philadelphia, they're 5-15, which is absolutely shocking. We know that they were fined $100,000 after kind of not telling the whole truth about Joel Embiid's injury, his knee injury, of course. And the Wizards are 2-17 at the bottom of the conference. It's pretty funny. You won't believe who those two wins are again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's not looking good for Washington at all, man. And honestly though, Antoine, to be honest with you, I thought that they would be maybe not good enough to make it to the play-in, but I didn't expect them to be this bad. You added Alex Sarr, who is one of the top, shot blockers, in this rookie class right now.
Yeah.
And they have other pieces, Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and Jonas Valanciunas. But I think he could be on the move at the trade deadline. You would think that they would be much better than this, and obviously they're still going through a rebuild. But yeah, man, that win streak is just hard. It's hard to look at. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And yeah, man, like we're gonna see what happens. Hey, like a lot of mock drafts I checked, they're like, they're supposed to get the number 2 pick in the draft, and that's either going to be Ace Bailey or Cooper Flag. So either way, they're going to get a future superstar. So I'm really happy for Washington, and they can finally just hit the reset button on their franchise this summer. Hopefully, they can really just get either Ace Bailey or a Cooper Flag. At the least, they got to get Dylan Harper to really have a chance of, by 2030, just being a whole new team. And
Yeah.
I think they're probably gonna go with a guard this summer. I'm already talking about their draft. I think they will go with a guard this summer. I think they should build around a guard. They already have Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, Kyle Kuzma, all these wings and stuff. And then so I really think that like building around a point guard would really do good. We've seen the Wizards have had superstar point guards in the past, of course, with Gilbert Arenas and John Wall. So it would be cool to see them maybe get a Dylan Harper or like a Nolan Traore or something like that. I would like to see them draft Ace Bailey. I think he'd be perfect for them and like really like just be the real centerpiece for them going into the future. But before we move on to the West, was there anything else you wanted to say about the East at all?
Yeah, the only thing I would mention is the 76ers. Obviously, this year is a big disappointment with them, but I think it's obviously
Mm-hmm.
more so had to do with them with their injuries because we all know the situation with Joel Embiid, and even with injuries like Tyrese Maxey, who's been out for a minute, and then you also have Paul George. And clearly, this past offseason when they acquired or signed Paul George, obviously is a championship move. Obviously, is it indicating that they're going all in this year, but it's hard to see players like that go through injuries and see for me, and this is just my personal take.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to build a championship caliber franchise in this way, you may want to look at other options where you don't see or have players that have a serious history of injuries. Because when you look at this Paul George acquisition, yes, it's a it's kind of some sort of a higher risk type of thing because of his injury history, but the reward could be phenomenal if he's healthy enough to where he could help Philly make it to the finals potentially. But just the fact that with Joel Embiid and Paul George, who are injury players that are not just there, you see where the Sixers are right now. And for the record, they did do a good job of adding depth over the offseason with Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, and bringing back Kelly Oubre and all those guys. But at the same time, if your star players are not there, then it doesn't really matter much. So I hope that at some point, Joel Embiid and Paul George, they could get back at some point in time into the season where they could possibly get into a rhythm and get on, put some wins together and make their way into the playoffs. Because at this point, I think the best case scenario for them is to make the playoffs, into the play-in. But we all know that in the play-in, there's, it takes a lot just to make to the playoffs, especially, depending on what seed that you're in. So
Purell.
hopefully Philly gets it together soon.
Mm-hmm. Got to win like 2 games just to get to play, like for
Yeah,
real.
man.
Seriously. Yeah, shout out to the play-in. The Hawks have been the beneficiary of that a couple times now. But missing the playoffs last year was a blessing in disguise, as we went on to see. And moving on to the Western Conference, 15 teams, just like the East, as we all know. So starting off with the West, like man, it's OKC again. Like last year. Like obviously we knew what they were gonna do. Like they're one of the youngest scorers in the league, and they have a superstar already in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 2 stars right beside him, with Chet Holmgren and Jay Williams, J Dub, as some like to say. He's averaging like 21.6 rebounds and 5 assists a game right now. Chet's been a monster on defense, like always, and like he's been spreading the floor with his 3-pointer. And SGA is an amazing scorer, as we all know. So they're playing in the Toronto Raptors right now. They're beating them 67-42. So they're about to move up to 17-5 on the season, unless the Raptors have some crazy comeback, of course. And yeah, man, ever since SGA has came over from Los Angeles, obviously he has turned into, dare I say, one of the greatest Thunder of all time, even in this short stint that he has been on the team. He's averaging 30 points a game right now, with 21 games played. So that's really what he does night after night. And yeah, he's super healthy this season. Like, he's been really consistent game after game for OKC. Really been well-rounded too, averaging 7 assists along with 6 rebounds as well, and 2 steals and a block. So SGA, he is absolutely a future most valuable player at 26 years old. He will absolutely win it at one point, SGA. Because OKC is going to be good year after year after year after year. They're going to win a championship at one point. I will say that on this camera. I'm not afraid to admit it. Like, they might be a 2031 NBA champions. Like, they're not going to break that core up. They have 3 stars for the future, all in their early 20s, and they're just not going to go anywhere. Like, they're a really good core, and like, they have good role players as well. Like Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, of course, Aaron Wiggins. Like, they have a really deep roster. I was kind of surprised when they traded Josh Giddey last year. I thought he was going to stay with them, like, be a part of that whole core too, for years. But yeah, it's the Thunder. They're the 1 seed. So I do want your opinion on how they've looked thus far.
Yeah, they've been on a roll, and they were the #1 overall seed last year. And to your point, adding Alex Caruso, I think that was a better move for them. I do like Josh Giddey a lot, but with Alex Caruso, I think just looking at what they needed last year from the postseason, I think they needed to add more defense to their core. And Alex Caruso is one of the best defenders in the league, not just
Mm-hmm.
at his position, but for overall. So I think that was a very good move for them. As you mentioned, just the core group that they had with SGA, Lou Dort, Holmgren, they have, a lot of guys that, definitely could win a championship or multiple championships in the near future. And not to mention that they have a stockpile of first round picks. And Sam Presti has done an amazing job putting this team together. So the thing about it is that whenever he's able to pounce on an NBA superstar, for trade, he has the, ammunition to go out and get someone like that. So just imagine adding an NBA superstar caliber player next to, Holmgren and SGA. So they're and not to mention, like I said, they're the #1 overall seed team. So it's going to be looking very good for OKC in the near future for sure. So it's a scary sight.
Yeah, man, Sam Presti is pretty ridiculous. You could definitely say he's one of the best GMs in the league, outside of Brian Wright, in my opinion, for the San Antonio Spurs, just based on the amount of first-round picks they have for the next few years. Like, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, Oklahoma, they are one of the front runners this year. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. Moving on from the 1 seed. To the biggest surprise of the season for me, the Houston Rockets are 15-7. If I pull up the standings from the 23-24 season right now, the Rockets were 41-41 last year. So for them to really show this kind of improvement, like 1 season later, and I get it, they could go on a losing streak, whatever. But without Perrin Sengun, like Jalen Green, like Amen Thompson, like they're just really good. And most importantly, at least in my opinion, most importantly, the change of culture with Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka has been phenomenal for the Houston Rockets. He's not on the court, but he's from the sideline, he's definitely been given some great insight. He's just been awesome for them, really seeing how he came over from Boston. We all know the situation, really, like, he really rebounded from that real well. And now he has another young core that, if I was him, I'd be extremely excited to coach. And with Reed Shepherd, they just got him at the 3rd pick. I think he's going to be the catalyst to this whole Houston thing. It's going to be Houston, They're doing it right now. I thought it'd be maybe 3-4 years from now, but it's going to be
Mm.
Houston, Oklahoma, um, and San Antonio for the teams that are really, really good like that in the future. So obviously they were bad for a really long time. That's why they got all these high draft picks, like with Amon Thompson, Reed Shepard, Jalen Green. That's like the number 2, 3rd, and like Amon was like the 4th pick. So it just shows you, like, yeah, like, all those years tanking has definitely paid off for them. They have some really unique talent. Amon Thompson has incredible athleticism, obviously. Reed Shepard, even a credible source like Sam Vecini from The Athletic, I love his work. He said that Reed Shepard on his podcast, The Game Theory, got to give it a shout out. He said that Reed Shepard is the best shooter since Stephen Curry in the league. So you can definitely make the case for that. I mean, based off potential, he was shooting 52% at Kentucky while in college. For John Calipari, and 52% is just absolutely absurd. He made like 7 3-pointers on 2 different occasions throughout the season. And Houston's just look phenomenal. Like, they're the biggest surprise to me throughout the whole season. So I did want to get your take on the Houston Rockets in their new era post James Harden.
Yeah, I think it was only going to be a matter of time before they actually improve as a team. I think that they added the right pieces, so now it's just where you have to wait for them just to grow as a team.
Right.
Adding Ime Udoka, obviously we know all of the work he's done in Boston. First year as a head coach with them, went to the finals. So I think adding Ime Udoka was a great decision there. And as you mentioned, Reed Shepard, one of the best, shooters that come out of this, draft class recently. And to your point, that this is the best shooter that we could see since Steph Curry. And I would probably say from a percentage-wise standpoint, but I think for the Rockets, I think they have a very competitive team. And I wouldn't say that they're a championship caliber franchise or anything of that nature, but just by seeing the pieces that they put together and the culture that Udoka is setting in for this team. They're still young, so there's a lot of growth for them. But I just love what they're doing with Houston in there. And like I said, with Reed Shepard, I think that he's one of the players that could definitely be in the mix for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, there are other players that you can make a case about, but like I said, I love how they're building that culture in Houston. So to me, it's not a total surprise of where they're at right now. I think it's just only going to be a matter of time of how long it's going to take for them to really build an identity, but it's clicking. So they're definitely going to be a good team this year.
And I get it. Like, as of right now, Reed Shepard is only averaging 3 points per game. Right now, with only 1.4 assists. He's a rookie. He will get the burn and the opportunity.
Sure.
And in my opinion, he's the one that they should build around. I really think Reed, because in the summer league, he was averaging 22 points and 8 assists a game. I do think he is what we think he is. I just think he has to get older and develop, and that's really it. Moving a little further down, the Dallas Mavericks are 14-8. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They're looking way better. Luka Magic is just looking really good this year, like always. Kyrie Irving, obviously, was a major part of their success last season when they made their appearance in the NBA Finals, where they lost to the Celtics. And Klay Thompson this year, obviously, was their biggest acquisition of the offseason. And he's looking really good for Dallas. He's really playing his role real well. They're beating the Washington Wizards right now, 101-77. I just think Klay's looked really good in his role over there. Just really being able to relax and shoot the ball, similar to his role in Golden State. He's averaging 13 a game right now, but it's really more so about like his percentage from 3. And he's still looking pretty good right now. He's shooting about 36% from 3 right now. That's still about a league average. Of course, compared to his career percentage of 41%, like that's a little low. But I think Klay Thompson's still getting used to his role in Dallas, and I still think we'll see what they do compared to season from last year when they made the finals. As long as they have Luka, they're gonna be perfectly fine. I don't think Kyrie's gonna fall off anytime soon. He signed a 3-year deal with them, so he has 2 years left on that already. And I think next year he will absolutely sign an extension. We'll see if he's still young enough in their eyes to get a max deal. He'll be around like 33, 34 at the time when he's about to try to sign that contract. I'm still crazy to think he's still like 32. He's still so young for life years. And the Phoenix Suns, I did want to give some love to the Phoenix Suns. They've slowed down compared to the start of the season. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They were 8-1. Now they're 12-8. So they're really kind of moving down to the middle of the pack. I still think Mike Budenholzer is going to do wonders for this Phoenix team as they move forward with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And how do you feel about the rest of the West? Like the Nuggets are 11-8. Like how you mentioned, the Lakers, they're struggling, but they're 12-10. And yeah, the Warriors, they started out 7-2, but they're 12-8 right now. And the Clippers, they're 14-10. Norman Powell is making a name for himself. So how do you feel about the rest of the Western Conference as we're in December right now?
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that not just in the Western Conference, but the entire league, including the East, a lot of teams have struggled through multiple injuries. You mentioned, Phoenix, Kevin Durant, he's been out and he's hurt again, but he'll be reevaluated sometime next week. I think it was a calf injury that he had. But I mean, even when you look at the New Orleans Pelicans, I mean, pretty much the entire starting five, or at least the other starting four, is out with injuries. That's a team that I'm expecting to make the playoffs. Hopefully, when other players are back fully healthy. Obviously, Zion, it looks like he's not coming back anytime soon. But as far as other teams with the Lakers, like I said, I think they have a lot of problems to deal with. So who knows if they're going to make the playoffs or not. If you're a Hawks fan, you're hoping that they don't, so that way they can get their pick and hopefully it ends up in the lottery. And as you mentioned, with other teams like Dallas. I think they could make it back to the Western Conference Finals. I think with the acquisition of Klay Thompson really helps them offensively for sure, and they've added other pieces to their roster to help them better defensively. So I think that things are starting to shape up, and clearly it's still early into the season, so obviously we won't necessarily get a better picture of how both conferences are going to shape up, at least until after the All-Star break, because that's when teams are going to really take it more serious because you're hunting for the playoff spot, things of that nature. But I think for the West, I think you still see some, teams that was like, wow, I didn't expect this team to be here. But like I said, with both conferences, a lot of teams have suffered through injuries. So you kind of get a better picture once, all teams are back to fully healthy, and then you go from there.
Yeah, man, I couldn't have put it better myself. I think you put it really nicely. Shout out to the Pelicans. They're 1-9 in their last 10. They're 4-18 as we record this, but they're still trekking on. You still got to go out there, put the jersey on every night, like you are contractually obligated to do. That you get, no matter how much you're losing. You can be upset all you want. You still have to go out there and play all 48 minutes like it's your last. And yeah, that's really it. I will say the most disappointing team has been the Minnesota Timberwolves this year.
Sure.
At least in my opinion, in the Western Conference, like even, Anthony Edwards even said there's no motivation in the locker room. He said we're playing really soft. Was the quote that he said about his Timberwolves. And even at 22 years old, this is his team. And he knows it. He's absolutely the face of the franchise, the face of the team, almost the face of the league at this point, with how many endorsements that he has. And yeah, man, the Portland Trailblazers are getting better. The Kings are getting better, but they're 10-12 right now. Of course, they still just have to wait till they get further in their season. They're beating the Grizzlies right now, who are the 4th seed. So that shows you they still got some talent. Still got De'Aaron Fox. Obviously Domantas Sabonis. And we just got to see what happens. So, and obviously they got DeMar DeRozan as well. So we'll see how the Kings do. I'm definitely keeping my eye on Sacramento. I still think they can go into the playoffs this year and do moderately well. I was really high on that DeMar DeRozan trade when he signed when it happened. So I'm really excited to see how they do later on in the season. And yeah, as we move on to the third phase of our show this evening, we were going to talk about some of the award races that were going on inside the league at this moment. Obviously, we can just go down the list of categories. So I wanted to get your opinion first on who some of the people you think are who could win MVP this year.
Yeah, really, I think SGA is definitely the runner for right now. I still have Nikola Jokic that could make the run. Honestly, those are my top two. Simply because of the fact that SGA, has the best team in the West right now, and just
Mhm.
seeing the growth and the leadership that he's had with this team, I think, yeah, and really he had a really solid case of winning it last year, but obviously it was to Jokic. And so that's another reason why I give it to Jokic as well, even though that they're struggling right now, meaning the Nuggets. But like I said, it's still early into the season. So if they're able to catch a winning streak to where they can get themselves back into the top four, top five, then I think the race will be a little bit more tight. But I think for me, SGA is the runner for right now. And if they're able to keep this up, where they remain the best team in the West from now until the end of the season,
Mhm.
then I think that will solidify his case even more for sure. That's where I got.
Yeah, man, I would love to see him win an MVP this early in his career. 26 years old, still really young. Um, it would just really just confirm everything we've known about SGA the last couple of years, that he is indeed one of the best players in the league, if not top 5 players in the league right now, averaging 30 a game, year after year
Yeah,
after year.
yeah.
Like he's really hard to guard every night. Like it's really crazy. He's good in the clutch. He's getting better with the playmaking, and is better with the defense too. So, and he's really hard to guard as a taller point guard as well. Some
Hmm.
honorable mentions for me. The first one was Donovan Mitchell for the Cavaliers. I don't put it past, like, he could take home the most valuable player award. Um,
Hmm.
they're low key the best team in the league right now, outside of the Celtics, who have a similar record to the Cavs. But it's really more so about their momentum and like the teams that they beat. I think Donovan will be a Hall of Famer at the end of his career. I think he's on pace to get a bunch of All-Star appearances before he retires and like put the
Hmm.
jersey up. And he could get 2 jersey retirements. You never know, for Utah and Cleveland. You never know.
Hmm.
Um, but he's been playing really good, man. And I don't put it past Donovan Mitchell taking home the MVP. And my last one was Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. I think it's literally only a matter of time until he wins an MVP award. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. I think one year he'll just be absolutely undeniable. They're gonna have a great record. They'll be like 30-2 or something like that. They're gonna look crazy one year, like even better than they thought we thought they could look. And that could really be the beginning of their dynasty, or it could be this year. You never know if they repeat. But I think Jason Tatum could absolutely win MVP this year. Depending how they look towards the end of the season, they won the ring last year, so I don't think the NBA would be against giving him the MVP award. And like I said, if he doesn't get it this year, he could get it next year, the year after that. Tatum himself is still like 26 right now, so he's still super young too, to be this talented. So he's not gonna slow down anytime soon. And yeah, that was really it for me on the MVP award. My final answer, though, I will say SGA. If the season ended today, I'd give it to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, only because the stats that he has and his team is also winning. So, but the next
You could
category,
also you could
hmm,
also mention Luka as well,
yeah,
because
yeah.
Dallas, they're top five last year. So I wouldn't put him as a front runner. Like I said, I'm with you. I think SGA is the favorite, but I think as far as an honorable mention, you could definitely put in Luka in the conversation for sure.
For sure, absolutely. And like I just said, Jason Tatum, that's another dude who is absolutely bound to win. He's going to be averaging like 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists one year, and he's going to win MVP. It'll be like a 2 seed after going all in on Luka. They have already, but he's still really young, to the point where they could build a whole nother core around him if they wanted to. So, like, It's only a matter
Mm-hmm.
of time. It's only a matter of time until number 77 um, gets an MVP. And that's another person who I could say this early in his career will be a future Hall of Famer and likely get a jersey retirement for sure from the Dallas Mavericks. Moving
Yeah.
on to the next category, Defensive Player of the Year. This is my favorite award. I love the Defensive Player of the Year. Just really
Mm-hmm.
like seeing how one player can make such a massive impact on one side of the ball. And yeah, my front runner for the Defensive Player of the Year this year. I'm not trying to be biased or nothing like that. It is Dyson Daniels. Just like the rate he's getting these steals. It had the last person to do it was like Michael Jordan in like the 87-88 season. With
Mm-hmm.
the amount of steals that he's getting. It's pretty absurd, like getting 7 again, like 7, 6, 7, 7, just night after night after night. And also the deflections as well. Just his defensive instincts are truly one of a kind in the league right now for a guard, at least. Especially being 6'8", 6'7", with like a 6'10.5" wingspan. He's just looked great this year for the Atlanta Hawks. He's doubled his stats, like 13 points per game, 5 rebounds with like 4 assists a game, and 3 steals. So he's just a real well-rounded player, and he has completely changed the dynamic of the Atlanta Hawks single-handedly.
Mm-hmm.
And the second person for me was, of course, Victor Wembanyama. He leads the league in blocks right now. He could have won the defense. I thought he should have won it last year over Rudy Gobert. He was averaging more blocks than Gobert, and we saw Gobert get abused. They were attacking Gobert in the playoffs, and you never see that with a Defensive Player of the Year when they played the Dallas Mavericks. So, and yeah, my honorable mention was Walker Kessler for the Utah Jazz. Shout out to Walker Kessler. He's from College Park. He's averaging like 2.8 blocks per game himself this year. So if you round up, he's also averaging 3 blocks a game in the middle for Utah. So those are my 3 for Defensive Player of the Year. But my final answer would be Dyson Daniels. Getting that many steals a game in the passing lanes is really hard as a guard compared to Wembanyama, who's 7'5". So all he has to do is just put his hand up to block the shot. Of course, it's way harder than that. But still, though, I still think Dyson should get Defensive Player of the Year if the season ended today.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. And I'm with you there with Dyson Daniels, and that would be such a wonderful achievement, just not just for him as a guard, but also for the Hawks, as a team, because they've been one of the worst defensive teams for quite some time. And then when you add a guy like Dyson Daniels, I mean, he's really led this team, defensively, and he's for other players are following his lead. So that says a lot about him alone. So I definitely have him in the mix right now. To me, though, I think that if I had to see and really, I guess you could say that politics do play a part of it in terms of who wins, any kind of award. And so for me, I think Victor Wembanyama would be, the front runner for it. And to
Mm,
your point, even though that he should have gotten it last year and Rudy Gobert won it. To me, I think as while Rudy Gobert is in the league, I wouldn't necessarily say that Rudy Gobert is always going to get the Defensive Player of the Year, but it's always going to be a tight race. So I think that until Rudy Gobert has officially retired, then that's when Victor Wembanyama is going to get the recognition that he deserves. But anything can happen, though. I'm not saying Victor Wembanyama is not going to win, the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's going to win it eventually, for sure. There's no doubt,
We're gonna
no
win
doubt about it.
multiple. Gonna win
Yeah, definitely
7.
for sure. Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, he's a freakish athlete. I mean, it's ridiculous. But definitely for sure, I have Victor Wembanyama and Dyson Daniels in the front court for those 2 for sure.
I mean, yeah, man. Like honestly, like how you said, Rudy Gobert. Like, if he makes the All Stars team like 2 more times, like if you were to make it this season, which probably won't happen because Minnesota are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has a pretty good resume to try to be a Hall of Famer when he retires. Like he has a 3-time All Star.
Absolutely,
He's
absolutely.
3-time All Star, 4-time All NBA, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time All NBA Defensive First Team, block leader, a rebounding leader. Like that's a pretty outstanding resume for Rudy Gobert. Truly,
Absolutely.
truly, truly special defensive player. Um, and yeah, again, that's another dude. Like we'll see if Utah want to put the number 27 up in the rafters. For Gobert, it was really one of their best defensive players. Of course, next to the late Mark Eaton. Um, and yeah, man. Like I said, moving on to Rookie of the Year. It's a pretty tight race. It's been online with a lot of people and who they think should win Rookie of the Year. So Zach Edey, obviously is the number one right now for a lot of people. How he's fitting in Memphis, he's just looked really good. But for my list, I did put Zach Edey. For one, for two, because I mean, I didn't want to be biased. I think Jared McCain has played great for a struggling Philly team. I think he's been a big surprise. For some people, he played great at Duke, but he did fall kind of low in the first round of his draft. And he's played great for Philadelphia. Being 6'3", can play shooting guard, point guard. Doesn't matter. He's been phenomenal. Um, and yeah, I think he could definitely take home the Rookie of the Year. And the last one, of course, for me, in my opinion, is Zachary Risachet. He dropped 33 points at one point this season. He's had a massive impact on the Atlanta Hawks. With just his 12 points per game, it's been a huge impact. He's played great on the defensive side of the ball, and his versatility. Quinn's put him at the power forward, the small forward, the shooting guard. Like it doesn't matter. Like he's playing whatever he needs to. And he's really shown great flashes during his time in Atlanta. And I'm really excited for his future next to Jalen and Trey. And I think the three of them are really going to do something special down here. The four of them, got to include Dyson Daniels in that for sure. And I'm just really excited to see how all these new players are going to really transform the Hawks. And same with Memphis. I think Edey is going to be in Memphis for a really, really long time. From the whole Steven Adams thing to Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey is going to be a great replacement for them. He's really young and he plays his role really well. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to fare as he gets older. That's another person who I think will win Defensive Player of the Year later on. He might win it one time, maybe twice, but Zach Edey will definitely win Defensive Player of the Year at one point. But who do you think should take home Rookie of the Year if the season ended right now?
Yeah, I definitely have to give it to Zachary Richardson right now, not just from how many points he averages amongst other rookies, but just the overall impact that he brings to the team.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the Hawks, they have a top 15 defense, so which is very very good for this team. And Richardson does play a big part into that. I know we've discussed Dyson Daniels and other guys, but right, Zachary Richardson with his athleticism, his size, and his length to be able to be effective defensively and help get stops and deflections, all those type of things. And of course, with him at his size, being able to move at like a guard at 6'9", 6'10", being able to shoot the ball, even though he's been struggling all year. Obviously, he's a rookie; he's still trying to find his rhythm. But to your point, against the New York Knicks, where he scored 33 points, there's no doubt about it that was his best performance and shooting performance as well. But I think outside of Richardson, other guys that could win it, as you mentioned, Jared McCain, he's been playing well for the Sixers, and who knows, that could turn out to be the backcourt of the future between McCain and Tyrese Maxey. You never know, but he's been putting on a show during the time while other guys have been injured. And lastly, my honorable mention is going to be a little bit different. I know that you mentioned Zach Edey, but I think another player that could win Rookie of the Year is out of the Lakers, Dalton Netsch.
Oh yeah,
Clearly, he was a steal of the draft, and even for me, I've even told multiple people like, because even for me, I was surprised that he dropped that far in the first round.
17.
I thought he was going to be a lottery pick because the man can flat out shoot it. And even though the Lakers they are struggling, but I think throughout the games that they have won, meaning the Lakers, Dalton Ness has played a big role into that as well, just by shooting the ball at a very high level. So I think that he will be a sleeper to win the Rookie of the Year. But like I said, there's no doubt he was the steal of the draft, and like I said, it's still surprising to me that he fell that far into the draft. But I think Dalton Nash, he's definitely a sleeper for sure.
And for sure, and I think if we go into the future and if we go to 2034, I think Dalton Connect is absolutely still a Laker. I think he's going to be there for a very, 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 very long time. He's too good of a shooter already for them to give up. He can at least become a great role player at the shooting guard, small forward for them, and a fan favorite as well. I do think Connect Four it's just too good of just a whole persona for them to let go. And he loves LA. I think he likes it already. And they knew what they were doing when they picked him. And I agree with you. I was shocked when he fell down to the 17th pick, but I know Rob Pelinka was licking his lips when that happened. The Lakers really needed the shooting, and he's really, really made a big impact already. And he was NBA ready coming out of Tennessee. He was he was 23 years old already, so he was already ready to get started. And I'm really happy for him. Shout out to Bronny James as well. He's a rookie as well in his rookie season, playing for the South Bay Lakers in the NBA G League. And he's just, trekking along, just still trying to improve. Every game, 6'1" guards was, it's kind of hard in the NBA like that. Trey makes it look easy. Fred VanVleet makes it look easy, but it's really, really, really hard for sure. And yeah, like all these rookies could definitely take it home. But y'all heard it here first. I was kind of leaning Edie. And my man Garrett picked Zachary Risache. Of course, I would love to see Zachary take it home. Absolutely, of course. But we'll see what happens. And moving on to most improved player. Just got about 2 more categories for y'all left this evening. Want to thank y'all again for joining us on this show. Really blessed to have y'all here. So most improved player. Now, this one's pretty interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of different people you could pick for this. I think I mentioned that during the conference breakdowns. But yeah, like for me right now, the front runner for most improved player. I don't want to be biased, but I think Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks has played like absolutely phenomenal. I think he's truly risen to an all-star level this year. They cannot be denied. Really, with the volume of triple doubles he's getting, like even when he's not getting triple doubles, he's getting like 23 points and 15 rebounds. And he's playing good against great competition. That matters. He played good against Boston. He played good. He had a triple-double against the Celtics. He played good against New York. He played good against Cleveland. He played good against Milwaukee. He played great at home against Milwaukee. So he's doing this no matter who's out there on the floor. So he's really taking that next step, and like his physicality, he's absorbing contact so much better now to power the ball through to the rim on the fast break. The Hawks have I wrote in a piece. I actually just published a piece on Jalen Johnson for the Lead a few days ago, and like it really just encapsulating like his all-star future in Atlanta. I don't think the Hawks have ever had a superstar duo in Atlanta. Not just, a star and like one person's really good, averaging like 18 a game. I'm talking like superstars, like, dynamic highlights every game, like from both players. Like the Hawks have never had that. So the fact that both these players, Trae Young and Jalen Johnson, were drafted, and they're aware of their dynamic as well. Like Trae just posted a picture on his Twitter last night after the game about them two after the game. So they're aware of their dynamic. Those two are probably really close behind the scenes. So they're both playing really good. Jalen's playing phenomenal. He's taken an even bigger leap from last year. And I think why he should win most improved player is just the fact that he's doing it every single night now. This is his standard. He's arrived, as you could say, as NBA pundits like to say. He's arrived. He has. He's really reached that star level. And I'm really happy for him. And this is all paying off. The Hawks have him for the next 5 years. So, we're going to see him develop, and we're going to see how far he can really go as an Atlanta Hawk. I think he's definitely a future All-Star. He's already averaging 20, 10, and 5. And again, he's doing it every night. It's not like he was going off for like a set of 3 games in the beginning of the season. This has been his standard. 20 games in, and he's just doing it night after night. And he has the confidence now to do this night after night. And yeah, it was Jalen Johnson. Darius Garland was an honorable mention with Cleveland. Like I said, he's confident himself now. He's just taken such a big leap from his previous years with his backcourt mate Donovan Mitchell. And the last person who a lot of people picked him online, even more so than Jalen. I've just seen his name more. It was indeed Franz Wagner of the Orlando Magic. He's averaging 19 a game last year and averaging 25 a game this year. Really, just really holding down the fort until his teammate comes back, Paulo Banchero. He's looked great. He's really stepped up to the plate like he was supposed to. And like it shows that like if there was no Paulo, he himself as the man of Orlando would be a 25 point per game scorer. And they're winning games. They're 16-8 without Paulo right now. Paulo only played 5 games and they're still playing great without Paulo. So yeah, but like if I had to give my final answer, I think Jalen Johnson should take home that MIP this summer. But how you feeling?
Yeah, I don't mean to be biased either, but I think I wouldn't say it's a secure spot. I wouldn't say it's locked in because you have other candidates, but I think it's Jaden Johnson for sure. And even Kendrick Big Perkins, shout out to Big Perk on NBA Today, giving a lot of love to Jalen Johnson. Even he said himself that he's been playing on an all-star level. And like I mentioned before, he's averaging 20 and 9 and 5 assists. And look, and a lot of people question if he would be able to take that next step as a second option on this team behind Trae Young, given the fact that DeJounte Murray was a second option behind Trae last year. Obviously, he's not here, so that's kind of been a question of whether or not if he was able to take that next leap, and he has so far. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in the beginning of the season, but as the season progressed, he's been getting a lot better each and every day. So the only thing that I hope for is that he doesn't go through any significant injuries like he did last year. Because honestly, just to be real, if he didn't suffer through those ankle injuries, I think he could have won the most improved player last year. But now he's taking better care of himself with his ankles, wearing ankle bracelets, and just being careful with his body and being healthy all together. I think he definitely has a secure spot to me. But like I said, there's still a lot of time into the season. But so far, I think he's the front runner. I also want to mention Dyson Daniels as well, even though I mentioned him as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But I think that just looking at his growth as a player, I think he could be in the conversation. And really, because of his defense and how much he's improved, even on the offensive end, being able, he's shooting the ball a little bit better, and he's been able to get to the paint, with his floater and things of that nature, and just be more involved, on the offensive end. I think he could be a candidate. And lastly, I would give Cade Cunningham as a candidate as well, given the fact that he's averaging 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. And to your point that you mentioned earlier, that they're 9 and 15, and they're not far at all to competing for a play-in spot as well. So I think that if Cade Cunningham can lead the Detroit Pistons to a play-in or even to the playoffs, I think if they can make the playoffs, then I think that could make a strong case for him as well, because the Pistons, they've been a bad team for God knows how long. So for them to potentially make to the playoffs through the play-in, I think that would be a strong candidate for him as the most improved player on his end for sure.
Yeah, man. Cade Cunningham might take it too. He's really because he was already a star, but he's got into that superstar level now this season. Really, really, really shown why he was the number 1 overall pick indeed back in his draft, as he should have been, absolutely. And I'm really excited for him and Jalen Green's rivalry to take place over the next few years. Of course, Jalen Green's team is way better than Cade's right now, but they're both still building. And it's interesting because like For those of y'all that don't know, like they've been on like the AAU circuit for years and stuff like that with each other. And it's interesting because the Rockets, like, the Thompson twins play for the Pistons and the Rockets. So whenever they face off, it's always going to be just super interesting to see the dynamics and stuff like that. But to end it on the MIP, I was going to go with Jalen Johnson. Good pick. Good. Honorable mention with Dyson Daniels. He could definitely take it too. Doubling his stats on almost every facet of the game and really putting himself on the map this time around. And yeah, going to our last category of the night. I want to thank y'all again for who had the time to sit down with us this evening. We clocked at about 1:10 tonight, so I really appreciate y'all for taking the time out. And yeah, so for the last category, it was going to be Coach of the Year. Now for this one, obviously we've seen how some of a lot of the teams have kind of similar records right now in like the East and the West, stuff like that. So it shouldn't be too hard to really show, like, really pick who has really separated themselves thus far. My front runner for Coach of the Year is Ime Udoka for the Houston Rockets. He's just completely transformed the franchise in like 2 seasons. He's doing so much with these young players, Jabbar Smith Jr., Jalen Green, Amen Thompson. Like he's doing just so much for them from the sideline. And I think because he had a good team in Boston and now Houston is good, that just shows like the common denominator, and it is him and his coaching style and his playbook. My honorable mentions were Kenny Atkinson and Joe Mazzulla for the Boston Celtics. It's kind of hard not to give those guys some love. They're the top 2 teams in the league right now with their records. And Kenny Atkinson has also put himself on the map from the sideline with the way he's been able to coach this team as a full-on head coach and get them to a crazy start at the beginning of the season. But that was my final pick. I will say Ime Udoka for the Coach of the Year for 2024-25.
Yeah, I personally have Kenny Atkinson as the front runner, given the fact that he has Cleveland with the best team, not just in the East, but in the in the league. Yeah, so I think that he should be the front runner because ever since he's came in, and like I said before, earlier into the episode, Cleveland, they didn't really make any changes to their roster. They added Kenny Atkinson as a head coach, and you see how well they've been playing so far. So I think it shows how much of an impact his coaching, his presence has changed this Cleveland Cavaliers team around. I do agree that other candidates such as Ime Udoka, you can make a case for him because he's helped this Rockets team to get a lot better as a top 5 seed team. And Joe Mazzulla, obviously, they're still the team to beat in the league because they are the reigning champions. So if he's able to, get Boston back into the finals, at the very least, then he could be a strong candidate for the Coach of the Year as well. But Kenny Atkinson, just the fact of the matter that you see how well he's coached this Cavaliers team, I think he's definitely up there for sure. That definitely top 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like he's just because it's still the same roster, like from the last couple of seasons. It's just the coach is different, and like he's really transformed the team. Like I said, Donovan Mitchell's like my top MVP candidate. I do not it's SGA, but Donovan is my second. He definitely could win it. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I really do think he's played great thus far throughout the season. But yeah, that was really it for me. Like I said, just to end it. Best team in the East right now is Cleveland. You could definitely say that. On paper, some still might think it's, Boston, stuff like that. I just think Cleveland's look really good. For the West, for me, it is Oklahoma. I think they'll end the season as the first seed. I think Denver will get better. So it's, same with Dallas. And I think Houston's going to stay top 5. I do think they're going to stay top 5. I think some other teams might come in and assert themselves with the superstar talent that they have, like Denver with Jokic. Of course, Jamal Murray's not playing that good this year, so that might kind of make that difficult. But I just think as long as they have Jokic, they'll always be a player. And yeah, like, of course, the award race, like I said, SGA, if the season ended right now, I'd give him MVP. Dyson's looking good. Victor's looking good for defensive player. Edie and Ricochet are looking good for Rookie of the Year, and also McCain. And yeah, Johnson, Wagner, Garland for most improved player. All those dudes are going to continue to play good for their team. So that race is going to stay really tight as we get to the summertime. And lastly, it was Coach of the Year. I was going to go with Ime Udoka if the season ended right now. But Kenny Atkinson and Joe Mazzulla are his biggest competition to take that home this summer. So yeah. And right as I say this, some history was just made. Nikola Jokic has just passed Magic Johnson for number 3 all time in triple doubles. So, like as I say, as long as they have Jokic,
Crazy work, bro. Crazy work.
they're gonna be all good. And he's still only like 30 years old. It's crazy. And with his play style, he can be all-star until he's 37 years old. Averaging like 13, 8, and 9 as like in his later years and stuff. So but that's it for me, unless you had any closing remarks, anything else you wanted to share.
Yeah, that is all. And like I said, hopefully that we'll start to see more teams get more healthy because the entire league has took a big hit and a lot of players getting injured. So hopefully that we'll see more teams come back healthy. As I mentioned, the New Orleans Pelicans with their pretty much the entire starting 5 out with injuries. So hopefully that they'll get back into full form real soon. But like I said, once we start to see more teams get healthy, then we'll start to see better competition. And like I said, come after the All-Star break, then we'll start to see how both conferences are going to shape up into the playoffs. But I just want to say I thank you guys for tuning in with us. This is our first episode and many more to come. And you guys made this special. So thank you guys.
Of course, thank y'all so much. God bless y'all. Good night. And we're gonna see y'all again, but want to start spreading that Christmas cheer. So I want to give y'all a Merry Christmas as well. And thank y'all for joining us. God bless you and enjoy your weekend. Y'all stay safe out there. Enjoy the games.
Peace.